Welcome everyone to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I am Matt Connerton, and Norm is sitting to the right of me, which is unusual. But Gary is here, Gary S. Hopper. If it was a one-shot, I was going to claim that Gary was a shapeshifter, and he was.
Yeah, I think that's what he is.
To be you, but
yeah,
I can't do it now.
No, well,
But Gary very graciously asked Norm to stick around for this hour, and Gary is going to kind of be the guest this week, and we're going to interview Gary about, I guess, why you shouldn't trust the government, right, and why what was the genesis of your interest in politics, and some controversial things. And
I don't want to talk about anything controversial.
Oh, no? Well,
No.
too bad. Then you shouldn't be. Then you shouldn't have me here. You know, I want to thank Gary for inviting me to come on to the show.
Yes.
And my leading question would be, if you don't mind, why are you in politics?
Okay. That's kind of why I wanted to do the show, because I've tried to actually get guests to come on and talk about stuff, but nobody wants to come on about this. I don't know. Maybe they're not radical enough. Back in the 80s, the first thing that started me in politics was firearms. When I moved to New Hampshire, I bought my first .357 Magnum because I came from Massachusetts, where unless you were married to the police chief's daughter, forget about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You had to kiss somebody's butt to actually own a gun, so I've never been able to do that with a straight face. So, so I bought my first .357, and I said, "This is really cool." I remember going into Riley's. I think I bought it. It was a Ruger .357 Magnum. I bought at Riley's, and I remember going in there and feeling like I was doing something illegal.
Yeah.
I know that sounds bizarre to New Hampshireites, but to me, I felt like I was doing something illegal. you
Right,
know?
because of where you were.
Yeah, and then I just
were
loved
before.
it. It was back
Yeah.
when my eyes were good, so I could actually shoot pretty good. I used
Yeah.
to go down the sand pit and just chase soda cans around the sandbank at about 25 yards, and it was really fun. And after that, I started paying attention to what was going on. And if you remember, during the late 80s, there was a lot of impetus to start gun control.
Yeah, with the Brady Bill after
The Brady
the
bills
assassination
and all
attempt
this,
on Reagan.
Reagan,
Yeah.
yeah, you know.
We had the assault weapons ban.
The
in
assault
the
weapons
90s,
ban was
yeah.
94,
Yep.
and all this other stuff. But I started to pay attention, and I realized one thing that has really bothered me throughout is the absolute ineptness of the media. I don't know if it's ineptness or deliberate misleading of the public.
That's a very catchy tune there, Norm.
Yeah. Is that for me? So, anyway, so I was paying attention to that, but I started seeing stuff on the news, like Channel 9 had a news article where a guy was shooting back of his house in Concord, and Channel 9 went around to the neighbors and took a picture of the gun that he was shooting and said, you know, and probably had to ask 20 neighbors to get the reaction that they wanted, which was outrage.
Yeah.
And they found some woman who was outraged at that gun being in the possession of a person in Concord, New Hampshire.
Right.
But by that time, I knew enough about guns to know what that gun was, and all it was a .22.
Yeah.
But somebody had bought plastic stocks and all this other stuff that you can buy out of catalogs and attached it so it looks scary.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally still a .22, but it looks scary.
Okay.
So I saw how they were manipulating things.
Yeah.
Then-
Well, everybody being okay with it wouldn't be news.
Right, yeah, exactly. If they went to the neighbors, so what? It's a .22, you know?
Right.
That wouldn't, you know...
You can't fill as much time on a
No, you
newscast.
can't be
Right.
outraged and surprised and scared and all that other ridiculous stuff. So I started paying attention to that, and I noticed how the news media was profoundly biased against the Second Amendment. And then an event happened in you got the paper. Was it Ohio or Idaho? Idaho, I think, right?
Yeah.
Are you talking about
Ruby Ridge.
Ruby Ridge? Yep. I have an article here that you printed out from the Cato Institute.
Right. In Idaho, in 1992,
Yeah.
it's actually 20-year anniversary yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Really?
Yes.
Yep.
20-year anniversary, yes. It was kind of cool how God works, because I kept wanting to do this show, talk about Ruby Ridge and other stuff, and for some reason, it just all worked out today, and I noticed the date today.
Yeah.
And it was 20-year anniversary just yesterday. So
Wow.
it's actually pretty cool because there's so many kids growing up who are going to come vote in November that have no clue about this stuff.
Right.
And you really need to know about Ruby Ridge. If you don't know anything about politics, Ruby Ridge is to me, is an absolute necessity to understand what happened at Ruby Ridge, to understand politics and what your government, given no oversight, will end up doing.
Right.
Fundamentally, what happened in Ruby Ridge is the U.S. Marshals were trying to, or be with the FBI and the BATF, whoever, were trying to get information on a white supremacist group in Idaho. Randy Weaver knew some of the people there.
Okay.
All right. So what they did in typical cop fashion is they basically entrapped him. They wanted him to sell him a sawed-off shotgun, which we all know is illegal, and it's like a 10-year minimum sentence or 10-year mandatory sentence for having a sawed-off shotgun.
Why is that, by the way? I know very little about guns, so
Okay.
I don't know.
I'll retreat a sec. Back in the during Prohibition, a lot of things were made illegal.
Right.
But they couldn't make them illegal because that would have been unconstitutional.
Okay.
So what they did is they said to have a sawed-off shotgun or a fully automatic weapon, you had to have a stamp to go along with a gun. And you can
Okay.
still get those stamps, but what they did is they stopped printing the damn stamps.
Okay.
So, which I think is unconstitutional, personally.
Yeah.
And so, back in the 30s, I could have my dates wrong, but back in the 30s, they made it illegal, unless it had a stamp with it, to have a sawed-off shotgun.
Okay.
It went to the United States Supreme Court, and this is an interesting case, and the Supreme Court said that the Second Amendment only applies to military-type weapons. And a sawed-off shotgun is not necessarily a military-type weapon, so it is not protected.
Huh.
My
Interesting.
question to you is, I think because they stimulate the bad guys with a sawed-off shotgun, so they automatically say they're going to make them illegal.
Well,
because
I think I think what they used to do is back in the Prohibition, they used to have them under their raincoat.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
and if you had the barrel cut off, and if you had the stock cut off, now you've got basically a 14-inch weapon that you can fit under a raincoat, pull it out. And
I see.
It's pretty.
Okay.
A shotgun at 20 feet is major league devastating.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so they made them illegal by hook or by crook.
Sure.
And so they wanted to, like I say, entrap Randy Weaver so that they could get him to infiltrate this white supremacist group. And I think they had him cut the barrel or something, whatever finagling they did. They basically charged him with having a sawed-off shotgun.
So somebody approached him undercover.
Right.
And
Yeah.
said, make
Exactly.
this for me. And,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Well, you do this, we'll do this, and it was a scam.
Yeah.
And-
So it's like extortion, basically. To get him
Basically.
to cooperate.
Correct. And so once he realized what was going on, they charged him, and he got out, I guess, on bail or whatever. But he realized he was being scammed, and he had two avenues. Either A, cooperate and rat on his friends who he may or may not agree with. That's irrelevant. Keep in mind that anytime you see something in the news when somebody's a bad guy, they'll say he's a white supremacist. They'll say he's a child rapist. They'll say all kinds of horrible things about somebody in the media to justify what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay? And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter whether what Randy Weaver was a white supremacist or his friends were white supremacists. That's perfectly irrelevant. Because what his political views are, you may not agree with them, but you still can't kill him.
Right.
And you
right.
still can't violate his constitutional rights. You have the freedom to believe what you want to believe, even if it's crazy.
Right.
So anyway, so they entrapped him. He had two options. He could cooperate, rat on his friends, or entrap them, which is what happened to him. or go to jail. So his third option was to bail the hell out, and he went back up into his cabin in the woods and just stayed there. Okay. So the BATF, and a lot of this is just plain arrogance. You know what I
Can you
mean?
explain what you mean when you say abbreviate that?
What?
BATF?
Oh, I'm sorry. BATF is Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
Okay.
Okay? But I believe this was the, it actually says in there, I don't think it was the BATF that started this ridiculousness. It was the,
Well, the FBI started the investigation.
with, who was a cooperating marshal, U.S. Marshal.
Yeah.
Okay, so the U.S. Marshal, they're trying to get this guy, and I'm sure the BATF was involved in that. I distinctly remember them being involved. And so they go up to his cabin, and now remember, these guys are dressed in, like, camo and everything else,
yeah.
sneaking up on the cabin, and they threw some rocks at the cabin to see what the dogs would do and stuff like that, try to get an idea of what was going on in the cabin. And people in the cabin didn't know what the hell was going on. So Randy Weaver's son and their friend and the dog went out looking for what was going on. They didn't know if it was an animal, what it is. They don't
Right.
see anybody right off the bat,
Yeah.
specifically. So the agents pulled back, and the dog kept coming, because the dog can smell him. He doesn't have to
Yeah.
see him.
Right.
Yeah.
Dogs are awesome like that. And the agent, instead of like identifying himself as I'm police and stuff like that, stop, hold your dog back or something like that, shot the frickin' dog.
Wow.
Okay, so now you've got somebody who really hasn't done any crime.
Right.
His dog's dead. Okay,
Yeah.
his kid's scared. The friend's scared. They don't know what the hell's going
They,
on.
they were young kids, weren't they?
The kid I don't know how old the kid was that got shot in the back.
Weaver's son was 14
That's what I thought.
14 years old.
Right. So he turns and runs, and the other kid shoots back at whatever the hell's shooting at him, because they don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, at that point, it's self-defense,
Right.
because you don't know whether it's criminals,
Right, yeah.
what's going on. Returns fire, the son turns around, runs away, and gets shot in the back and dies. Okay, so now you got one guy who's been entrapped. His son's dead, his dog is dead, and that one kid gets back to the cabin. Then the FBI gets called, and they regroup, and they set up sniper positions around the cabin. Now, the sniper is a very unique guy. His name is Hal something. It might be in there.
I don't
You
see.
can't see it, but
I don't see his
I had it
name.
on. I saw it earlier. I should have wrote it down, but I forgot because I got drained.
That sounds familiar, though.
But it was like Hal something. He was from Hawaii.
I'll find out.
Who's the shooter? The sniper at Ruby Ridge. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
All right, so this guy is sitting in the woods. Now, if anybody knows about shooting, if you're a sniper, you got a scope on a rifle. If somebody's 100 yards away, I can tell you what clothes they're wearing, what they look like, and everything else. And my eyes stink. Okay? And I can still do that at 100 yards.
Right.
Okay? Even with my eyes being blind in one eye and in 20/40 in vision in the other, I can still hit this soda can every single time at 100 yards with a scope. And that's not a sniper scope. That's just a regular scope. Snipers, if they're halfway decent, could put, easily
Put a hole through there.
if you could see that circle on camera, I don't know if you can see that, can
Can
easily,
you bring that up closer to him, please?
I don't know. But basically, if you look through this hole, it's about a 1-inch diameter hole. A sniper could easily, unless they really are
lost it.
horrible, okay,
They lost the picture.
could put 5 shots in the center of that hole without hitting that rim.
Oh, there it is.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, that's how good they are. That's how well how good the camera, their camera, right, I got distracted. The scope is, and how good they have to be a sniper. The actually trained snipers can take somebody out at 1,000 yards. All right, so you got a sniper sitting in the woods, full camo, with a scope, And they gave them, which is unconstitutional, but they gave them, because an officer had been shot, they gave them a shoot-to-kill order. Anybody moves, you can take them out,
Which is illegal.
which is illegal. Randy, they went outside, I guess, to find out what was going on. Randy Weaver got shot, was heading back into the cabin, and the sniper shot his wife in the forehead while she was holding a baby in her arms. Killed her dead.
And they got justified, and they got to be considered heroes, right?
I don't know about maybe heroes within the agencies or the
No.
bureaus.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I mean, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, the FBI agent in charge of Ruby Ridge was promoted. Weaver finally took the federal government to court and won $3 million and was acquitted, I believe, of every charge he had.
Oh, Lon Horucci?
Yeah, Lon Horucci.
Okay.
He is the person who shot her right in the forehead,
Okay.
okay, with a sniper scope. There's no excuse for that,
Yeah.
okay? Now, that would be one thing. A FBI and stuff operation going badly. But the fact of the matter is the government completely covered it up.
Yeah.
They promoted the FBI agent in charge. That sniper should have done jail time, and he didn't.
Right.
I don't care what his order. When you're an officer, you're ordered to do something. But if you're ordered to do something that is either unconstitutional or illegal, you don't do it.
Right. Right.
You know, if he was, maybe a 17-year-old kid in the military, okay, maybe, but he's not. He's
Right.
already been in the military. He's a trained sniper. He knows exactly what's in front of him when he squeezes that trigger.
And he should have known
He
better.
absolutely knew better. He
Yeah.
absolutely just didn't care.
Right.
Now,
And so he should have done jail time.
oh, I agree. Because let's be honest, if Weaver had shot him or one of his family members, he would have been executed.
Yeah, we would have been executed. If we shot him, we would have had the death penalty in New
Right.
Hampshire.
Yeah. And that's
Right?
like if somebody shoots you, honestly, if somebody shoots you because you're a legislator, we're going to get this death penalty.
No, not for legislators.
That's
You get a rebate on your taxes.
Oh, oh, okay. Well, that's a good idea.
Oh, you don't want to tell people that.
No, not too loud now. Not too
Put
loud.
a target on them.
But and another thing that I was always stressed out was a Waco.
Yeah,
thing. I asked you for a long time. Was scared to almost walk down the street because of the fact that you didn't know if they were going to shoot you or any type of religious organization
Right.
that was going on with it, And to this day, people still have nightmares about it. And I feel that was an invasion of mafia law or whatever you want to call it.
that was huge, and that's actually the other thing. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was because I don't think people who were like I said, the Ruby Ridge was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
There's people that are 20 years old and probably can't.
Who have no idea.
No clue.
Right.
No.
No idea.
Okay, and this is your government. It wasn't. I still remember this having hearings in the United States Congress. Arlen Specter was talking to Randy Weaver and saying, "Well, see, justice did prevail because now you're here talking in front of us." No, it didn't prevail because those officers never went to jail.
Right. And you can't undo what they did.
And you can't undo what they did. The $3 million settlement, well,
Yeah.
big deal.
And that'll bring your voice back.
Exactly.
No, not his kid, his dog, or his wife.
No.
We have Don is on hold. Do you want to take this
Sure.
call? I assume.
You guys are in charge. I'm the guest.
Hi, Don. Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades.
Yes. Hi, my name is Don. I'd like to talk to your guest.
Yep. Go for it. He's listening.
I did not see the beginning of your show, but I would. Your guest did comment that if Randy Weaver had killed the FBI agent, that he would have been executed. Kevin Harris killed U.S. Marshal William F. Deegan, and he was not executed.
What did happen?
That was self-defense. He was being shot at. He
He was told, U.S. Marshals, drop your gun. And he shot William Deegan in the chest.
That's not the version I heard. And considering the fact that the FBI and the U.S. Marshals lied about so much else in the case, I will take the word of the Weavers.
You take the word of that as opposed to a lieutenant colonel in U.S. Marines, the most decorated U.S. Marshal in the history of the Marshal Service.
Who's that?
Over Randy Weaver and Kevin Harris.
Who's that?
William F. Deegan, deceased.
He's dead. Yeah, I don't have to. He's gone.
Oh, you would take his word over.
Look. I watched. I've watched a lot of things about like Waco, Texas. And
this isn't about Waco, Texas. This is about Ruby Ridge
Yeah.
and the murder of Marshal William F. Deegan.
I that's not the version I heard, and
So Bill Deegan didn't die?
no, I do know that the police officer died in the
He wasn't a police. He was a United States Marshal.
yes. I understand
The most
that.
decorated U.S. Marshal in the history of the U.S. Marshal Service.
Correct. Okay, so
And Kevin Harris, who shot him, served no time in jail and was not executed for that.
I think that was self-defense. I mean, those guys.
In self-defense in what way? U.S. Marshal, your gun.
What?
Say that again, Don.
This is the U.S. Marshal Service. Drop your gun.
At what point? After they had already shot the dog, or
They shot the dog. Sure.
why did the
They
kid?
shot the dog. The dog was coming after the U.S. Marshal.
Why did
and
the
they
kid
shot
get
him.
shot in the back?
Yeah, thank you. So are you condoning that this 14-year-old kid was shot in the back and saying that's okay?
I'm saying that when the U.S. Marshal Service says drop your gun, you don't shoot a U.S. Marshal and then run away.
I don't know. If I'm being shot at, my dog's just been shot, and I don't know the sequence of events. At what point? Excuse me.
Then maybe you should know the sequence of events, rather than make these attacks at the FBI and the most decorated U.S. Marshal in the history of the U.S. Marshal Service, Bill Deegan.
Well, I'm making those attacks because you had a 14-year-old kid who got shot in the back.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Running away with a gun.
Yeah.
After U.S. Marshal was down and bleeding.
But it was so. I guess my question would be to you, sir, if you don't mind. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Certainly.
Then you feel that this guy who killed this 14-year-old kid should get a medal for killing a 14-year-old kid because he didn't know who was on his property?
When they stand up and they say, "Drop your guns," this is U.S. Marshal Service. What do you think it is? The Russians?
There are many stories to this thing here, and the FBI and the U.S. Marshal are going to always tell one side of the story, and you're only going to hear what the U.S. Marshal and the FBI want you to hear.
So, listening to Randy Weaver, who was under surveillance for trafficking weapons,
He wasn't.
his wife, who had to live out in the shed because she was having her period. These are the people we should listen to.
So then it's okay that the sniper shoots the wife who's holding a baby
Yeah,
in the forehead and killing her? That's okay?
If you were there, you might know a different story.
If you were there, you might know a different story too.
Well, I've talked to people that were there.
Right.
So
I held the hand of the widow of Bill Deegan,
Okay.
the most decorated U.S. Marshal in the
I
history
get
of the
that.
U.S. Marshal Service.
I understand that, sir, but the fact of the matter is you had a trained sniper blow away a guy's wife, shoot him through the head. Now, you've done a lot of shooting. Are you telling me that a trained sniper doesn't know exactly what's in front of him before he squeezes that
No,
trigger?
I won't tell you that, but
So
if they
whose
were
story are we
told
supposed
leave
to-
the building on an order of the United States Marshal Service, and they left the building. How do you?
Well,
And you know what? I haven't done a lot of shooting.
you know what? I find it interesting that Randy Weaver was able to collect $3 million from this, so that somebody had to be corrupt.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Randy Weaver got $3 million.
Yeah.
You think that's the first time the government gave money to the wrong guy?
So what you're saying is that the FBI and the U.S. Marshals should all got $3 million for killing an innocent woman, shooting her in the head, and killing a 14-year-old child by shooting him in the back
It does-
because the child was frightening?
It does seem if they paid out that money, then that's an acknowledgement on the part of the government that they screwed up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why
Would you
else?
agree with that?
Well, the thing is
The government probably should not have shot Mrs. Weaver. Did they, in the heat of the moment there, did they know exactly what was going on? Maybe, maybe not. But I can tell you that Kevin Harris knew what he was doing when he shot U.S. Marshal William Deegan in the chest.
How old was Harris?
Harris was 30-something.
So he was probably defending
an
his
adult.
property. You know, two wrongs don't make a right. I'm not saying he was right. I'm not saying the U.S. Marshal
the
was
problem I
right.
have with this.
Wait, you said that if they'd shot a federal officer, they would have been executed. That didn't happen.
No, I said if you are convicted, you said that, yeah.
You said if they'd shot that federal officer in reverse, they would have been executed. Listen to your tape. You said that.
Well, did you say
I
that?
said-
U.S. Marshal was shot and murdered
Yeah.
doing his job and said, "Stop, U.S. Marshals, drop your gun."
I think
They had shot the dog.
I think the problem I have with this whole situation, and the problem I have with Waco, Texas, is that
This
if
isn't Waco, Texas.
it is Waco, Texas.
This isn't Waco, Texas.
It is because
Ruby Ridge is not Waco,
yes,
Texas.
it is a fundamental problem with the fact that you can't trust the government to tell us the truth. And so if you look at the facts that go along with Waco, Texas, what they said happened and what really happened, and you look at Ruby Ridge and other instances like this, you learn over time that our government will say anything, do anything, and cover up anything to cover their own tracks.
So in other words, the murder of William Deegan was because of Waco, Texas?
No, I'm saying because of the inability of the government to be able to police its own, to do the right thing. I don't trust what the government's official stance of what happened at Ruby Ridge is.
So that allows you to say that if they'd shot a federal officer,
I
they would have
actually,
been executed?
you're going to have to listen to the tape again. I'm not going to keep going over
First
this.
of all, I believe I'm the one that said that.
Well,
Your guest said that.
well, that's speculation, and we have no way of knowing for
You
sure.
said that if they'd shot the federal officer, they would have been executed. A federal officer was shot and murdered there, and the cowboy lawyer from Oklahoma got him off.
Okay. Do you feel the guy who shot the officer?
It was Kevin Harris.
Right. Okay. And my feelings are he was probably doing it, defending his property because the government
His property
was
Randy Weaver's
invading.
property. But
Was-
that,
He's
Was
still,
invading these people's rights, was invading their property when they had no reason to be invading it.
there was a warrant for Randy Weaver's arrest.
well,
There was a warrant for Randy Weaver's arrest for illegal trafficking firearms. His property was under surveillance. They were there to do surveillance. The dog discovered them. They shot the dog. They then were told, drop your firearms, and they shot William Deegan.
And that gives them justification of killing a 14-year-old?
Well, the shoot to kill.
14-year-old on the run with a gun after a federal agent is down.
but he's on the run. He posed no threat to the officers at that point.
Right, he was retreating.
Yeah. You know, the problem with the government is when they're police officers locally or whatever, they can shoot somebody and they're going to be considered justified. The guy in Litchfield, for instance, which I'm not, got shot in the back. And the problem with the U.S. government and the state government is whenever they kill somebody.
Then either elect people that agree with your philosophy or move.
Well, I think there's a larger point here that the federal government or the state or local, whoever, always has the advantage because they can
can do whatever
ultimately
they want.
manipulate the situation however they want to make it look like they're in the right.
And
which-
the media will back up the media's
Well,
always
some-
going to print.
Well,
Well, sometimes.
the other point I want to bring out about this to me is it's also like the Catholic priesthood.
they protect their own.
They protect their own.
Yes.
So if like in the case of the sniper, okay, that guy should have done jail time. Shooting somebody, unless he's got some awesome story of how he pulled the trigger and took out shot a woman in the forehead while she's holding a baby.
Yeah.
Man, but the thing is, you know that they're going to protect their own,
Right.
and it's like if you look at the case of Waco, Texas, they destroyed evidence. They had.
Should we let Don go?
Yeah, we're going to let Don go.
Don, we're gonna let you go and free up the line, but thank you for the call.
I appreciate for letting, and I would hope that as I say goodbye, that you would have some respect for the fallen officer William Deegan, who died in the line of service for his country
I would
when he
not,
told people to stop and drop your weapons.
All right, Don. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, no, I don't have any disrespect for.
It's not. I mean, ultimately, it's not
all
about
about respect.
It's not well, and it's not about one individual, right? I mean, really, ultimately, it's about how they handled as a unit,
As a
how
group.
They, yeah.
And the other thing too is if you looked after that point, okay, things went wrong. Let's say those guys are justified because they were scared, they were being shot at. How you can still shoot a kid in the back, I don't know. Harris, I don't know what. I've never looked into the testimony of why he. Did they say stop and he's still panicking and shoots back, or, what the actual sequence is? That's really not that important as far as the case goes to me. What's really important is how much it was covered up after the fact. The fact that you had an FBI agent in charge of the siege afterwards, when they pulled up and they have snipers all around the house. So basically, they have the situation entirely contained, and they're still they're still shooting people who are, like I said, the woman who's got the baby.
Right.
And if it had stopped at the beginning of this, where he's talking about, and they had investigated it and charged Harris or something like that, that would have been one thing. But that's not how it ended. And it's not, people didn't come forth and say this, and this. People covered everything up. Because you had the sniper, nothing was ever... I think the prosecutor in Idaho years later tried to prosecute him.
Really.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I saw that on there.
Yeah. He tried to prosecute them, but the feds stepped in and protected him.
Okay.
Okay. So if the people in Idaho, the officers or the law enforcement in Idaho, still believes that guy's guilty, but the federal government, protects him.
Right.
The FBI, like I said, the FBI agent in charge of the process after that was promoted. Okay? There was no real investigation. People weren't held accountable, and I think that's where the problem is. You know what I mean? Your government can't be beyond the law, and in this case, it absolutely was. So,
Was Weaver ever charged with the illegal gun transport?
yes,
or
he was
whatever?
charged, and he retreated back to his house because he didn't want to cooperate with the cops.
Yeah.
What was there? Did the police ever present any evidence to charge Randy Weaver with, other than the entrapment incident?
To the best of my knowledge, no. I think it was just.
Really?
I think they just had that, and that they were going to use that for the purposes of extorting cooperation out of him.
Okay.
And I think everybody knows that cops do kind of stuff like that to try to scare you into helping them out when you
Sure.
might otherwise not want to.
Sure.
So then I wanted to go on to Waco, Texas, because that was the other thing that really And the other perpetrator in this, to me, is the media. Okay? Because if you look at the Constitution, the first article in the United States Constitution is about the right of the free press.
Right.
And it's there for one purpose. The free press is not there so that Hugh Hefner can have nude 18-year-old girls on a magazine.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's irrelevant. The freedom of press is strictly there so that the press would always be a check on governmental power. And in the case of Ruby Ridge,
Yeah.
and in the case of Waco, Texas specifically, they were nowhere to be found. I remember at the time of Waco, Texas, because a lot of weird things happened in Waco, Texas. First, if you listen to the news at the time, the news said that they were going into Waco, Texas. If anybody doesn't familiar with it, you really should look this up. There's a lot of videos on it.
Yeah.
Waco, Texas was the Branch Davidian compound. The Branch Davidians were a subset of the Seventh-day Adventists.
And when was this, by the way? This was after
This is in
Ruby.
1993.
Okay.
Somebody posted, when I talked about Ruby Ridge, somebody posted, well, that's because of the liberals. It really isn't a liberal or Republican Democratic thing. 1990,
Three?
was that 1993? Yeah.
Ruby Ridge was 92, so Waco.
Yeah, Ruby Ridge was 92, right.
Because I do remember
So-
Waco was very early in the Clinton
So,
administration.
yeah, so August 92, George Bush was still in power. Okay?
Yeah.
It was to me. It was an incident that should have never happened.
Waco, yeah.
Waco.
Oh, yeah.
There was slaughtering. There was the FBI and the U.S. Marshal, whomever were involved in it. They were power hungry. They were we can do what we want to do.
right.
And to me, it was the most senseless massacre since Al Capone.
It was horrible. But anyway, if you listen to the media, because the media was just parroting anything the government told them, apparently.
That was February 93.
Okay, so what happened was that the media was told that David Koresh was this super evil guy who was having sex with underage children and all this other stuff, and that's why they went in. Well, first of all, it's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms made that initial assault on the compound. That's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. It has nothing to do with child endangerment.
Right.
Okay, so that story wasn't even legitimate. But what the government and the press do is anytime they're engaging in something like this, is they have to vilify the person that they're attacking.
Sure.
And they have to make them look like the most evil SOB on the planet.
Right.
So whatever they do to them is okay with the American public.
Right. Yeah,
'Cause
it's good PR.
It's good PR.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact of the matter that I understand is that I think it was UPS was delivering some stuff to the compound, and they found some gunpowder, which was legal. I don't know if UPS actually delivers that anymore, just because of the hazardous. And they found some the package, like I said, busted open, and they found some inert grenade cartridges, I guess, which
Yeah.
is similar to this.
Okay.
Okay, stuff you get at an Army-Navy store, but they were doing it mail order. You can still go down to Riley's and get a pound of gunpowder.
Yeah.
There's nothing illegal about that.
Right.
All right, so the I believe it was UPS got kind of alerted. They contacted BATF, and the BATF started investigating. I think what happened, but I don't know because we will never know the truth, and that's part of the thing that really bothers me about this whole thing is you really don't ever know the truth because the
Sure.
government never tells you the truth.
Right.
And I think what happened was, like I said, it was at the beginning or in the middle of all the anti-gun stuff, and they were going to go into the compound and expose these crazy lunatic Christians as being gun nuts, and then they're going to pull all these guns and display them and make a big production out of it,
Right.
and make the BATF look like heroes.
Right. Yeah.
And they approached it that way too. If you look at the videotape, much of which was lost, which is kind of coincidental.
Right.
We had that happen where when I told you years ago we had a petition to have our police chief elected. And I was one of the petitioners. My wife and I actually started the whole thing. My wife started it, but I joined in. And this is a very good example of how the media is. The police chief of Ware at the deliberative session held up a stack of papers and said, if you'd seen the records of the people that signed this petition, they're as long as my arm. That inference is that he did background checks on everybody that signed that petition,
Right.
which is a violation of everybody's constitutional rights.
Yeah.
There was a reporter from the union leader sitting in that room at the time who saw everything and reported nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, that videotape coincidentally got lost too.
Of course.
Isn't it amazing how the government finds justification, but yet, like you said, the videotape got lost.
This evidence got lost.
Got
If
lost
it-
and all that stuff. But yet, if someone gets this kid just got sentenced to 3 months or 6 months in jail for wire tapping.
yeah. I don't know. Oh, yeah, the kid in
The
high
cop
school.
block thing.
Yeah.
Got sentenced to prison time because he was
it's-
doing that. I'm sorry. If the cops had nothing to fear.
Right.
Yeah. It should be transparent.
Right.
So you have accountability.
So what did this guy actually do that was so wrong that he was going to be sentenced to jail for?
Right.
Who did he violate? He was in a public school.
Right. Exactly.
And where's the confidentiality in a public school?
Right.
We have. You want to grab this
And like
call?
that
Sure.
one, and like that down in Ware when they were taping all the cop stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that most of those got thrown out. I believe all
Yeah.
of them got thrown
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Hi, Tom. Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. Tom, you still there?
I am.
All right, go for it. What you got for us?
Right. I'm going to disagree and take exception with a ton of the story that you just put down here. Right. Rico, Texas, you've predicted yourself back times. First, you say the media was where to be found. Then you say, look it up. There's tons of video footage. Because there was media. This dragged on for days and days and days. This was in the early days of CNN. You could watch it live as they sat there and did nothing with their thumbs up their butts for days and days after the original attack, which is filmed by the agency that you say is trying to hide it. It's filmed by news crews where they're on the roof, and 4 federal agents are killed. Now, you say that ostensibly the first one in there about his life, his children. Absolutely untrue. He was being investigated for stockpiling arms for a long, long time. And they came out and said the only reason that they didn't raid his compound or serve a warrant before was because it was a religious compound. And they didn't know quite how to react. Yes, mistakes were made. But once they went and tried to say, we need to get in there, and 4 federal agents are killed, they go into retreat, but now the guy has killed 4 federal agents. Now, when it finally ended and Koresh set the whole compound on blaze, conspiracy theorists to this day say, oh, there's no way this could have happened, that could have happened, must have been the federal government. No, the federal government got in there to blow it up from the inside with kids pointed from every direction, from every news source, say wasn't there and lost their footage. Bro, they're all there. There's footage to watch. You could spend the rest of your life watching footage of Waco, Texas. Right? And this all comes on the heat of when Jim Jones went down to Guyana and we sent with Congressman Ryan down to check it out, what's going on. He's killed on the tarmac. So, there is a fear of what these religious zealots can do. And you almost sit there and almost sound like you're defending Koresh.
No.
Oh, we had to paint him as evil, blah, blah, blah. He was an evil guy. And evidence just continues continues to mount how evil of a guy David Koresh was. And that the ATF sat there with hands to make a move before they finally said, all right, we got to go in. And they went in with tanks to punch holes in because it was a fortress. And once that they saw that the tanks were punching holes in the walls, he pushes the button. He blows them, the kingdom come. And yet, I'm not a Republican by any stretch of the imagination, but I stand here and be positive this day that Koresh is the one who blew them all up.
All right, thank you for the call.
Ruby Ridge, just to...
Thank you for the call, but I can't.
We're running out
You're
of
not
time.
even let me. You're
Yeah.
not even let me cut in.
That was Tom from Stir It Up.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I totally disagree. First of all, David Koresh used to go into the center of town all the time. He used to go jogging. He went down to Walmart. He knew the local cops. If they had wanted to go in and investigate weapons, there was a myriad of different ways to go about that. Running up with, I think they had a trailer. They had like not a trailer, but a trailer full of BATF agents that got out. Now you got to remember that this doesn't justify it, but this feeds into their belief. The Branch Davidians under David Koresh believed that the Antichrist or was the government, and the great Satan was going to come in and attack them. So at that point, they fed into that, and all of a sudden they're being attacked.
Yeah.
I've never seen any footage or evidence to say that a cop went up, knocked on the door, and said, "Hey, we got a search warrant."
Right.
It was an attack. So anybody has a right to defend themselves in their own home, and they started defending themselves. Whether you can disagree or agree with that, it's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that they shot up that place. A lot of BATF were shot in that first volley. Okay, that's not good. That was, I think it easily could have been avoided. Mm-hmm. I don't know that David Koresh was that evil. I know there was a lot of allegations, but the fact of the matter is, if the BATF there, it's over gun stuff, not whether or not he was messing around with little kids. Because
Right.
I had heard those allegations, but I've never heard any heard that substantiated.
And guess
Yeah.
where you were saying that he was downstream, he was doing all these things, dealing shopping and whatever, being friendly with the cops and all that. If he was so bad, why didn't they arrest him then and there?
That's what that's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking. Let's presume that the BATF agents were doing their job.
Okay.
Okay, initially.
Yeah.
Obviously, they handled it wrong. Just by results, they handled it wrong.
Yeah. Janet Reno, I remember, took a lot of criticism
heat
for
for that,
her
yeah.
handling of it.
And she admitted a lot of the guilt on that.
Yeah.
Over time, but it took a lot
Yeah.
of years
Sure.
for them to admit it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's part of the problem. Is you had that same sniper that shot Randy Weaver's wife was at this incident.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the snipers that was in one of the buildings, the outbuildings, and he said he never took a shot from his position, but there's evidence to prove that there was actually spent cartridges where he was. So somebody shot something from there. It just crap. We're running out of time. It just turned out to be a horror show, and that guy said that he torched his own building. That isn't necessarily true either. It took years to find out that the FBI, when they went in there with military help, which is unconstitutional,
Yep.
the Posse Comitatus said you cannot use the military to do law enforcement.
Yeah, they can't operate on.
They
on
can't,
US
but they
soil
were
that
there.
way. Yeah.
Okay. I brought these. These are 223 rounds. If you look at this, there's orange. Those are tracers. They actually start burning about 50 yards, I think, when they get outside the barrel of a gun.
Okay.
They're used for machine guns to see where you're actually hitting.
Okay.
And these are AP rounds, armor piercing. See how they're all coated?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not a military guy, but I know that much. Okay, the FBI after Waco, Texas was torched, said that that David Koresh and his men did that. Okay, and they said that all the incendiary devices or the smoke grenades and the tear gas was not incendiary. It took years for it to come out that it was.
Okay.
And the places they put it could have actually started those fires.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it was the whole thing was a horror show, and what really bothers me is not the mistakes individual cops make, which is what a couple of the people calling are obviously sympathetic to the police, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't. It doesn't bother me or it does bother me, but I don't. It doesn't affect me much when you have a rogue cop screw up, because everybody screws up,
Sure.
and every cop is human, and so there's going to be cops that go off the reservation once in a while.
Sure.
That's okay. What really bothers me is when it takes years of testimony before Congress and all this other stuff before you find out the truth about what happened, some of the truths at Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
And then what happens is you say, well, what else did they lie about? You know, what else? What other crap are they hiding? It's like, because that brings us to today, where you've got Fast and Furious. Okay, you've got a case where all these legitimate gun shops were being told by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to sell guns to people that they were suspicious of.
Right.
But they were told to sell it anyway, and that didn't come back to haunt them until an officer was shot by one of them.
Yeah.
Because those were all running back over, the guns were going over being brought over to the border and sold to in Mexico.
Yeah.
And those guns came back and killed a cop.
Yeah.
And now that's being covered up. And it's this constant lying the government does to protect its own.
Right.
And like in the case of the guy at Ruby Ridge, promoted after the fact, that is forces you not to trust the government. Like the caller earlier said, this one cop was shot by Harris.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him and his family.
Right.
Okay.
Deegan. Yeah.
Yeah, Deegan, and I'm sure he was a wonderful guy, but that still doesn't justify what happened after the fact.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if it was handled well, and it could be proven that that's exactly what happened, Harris should have gone to jail.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But it was handled so badly that you can't trust what we were told about Ruby Ridge. You can't trust what we were told about Waco, Texas. And the guy said there was footage all over the place. That's not true. There wasn't. The only footage I saw at the time was an 8-track tape that was being passed and reproduced, passed around the country.
Really?
Yeah. 8-track, no, not 8-track. What do you call them? A VCR.
VHS.
VHS.
VHS tape, yeah.
A VHS tape that people were reproducing
Right.
and showing, that the incendiary devices were actually, flammable.
Right.
And stuff like that. And it was not coming from ABC, NBC, CBS, the New York Times. The New York Times, or any of the people that are entrusted with that responsibility were not reporting it.
Right.
It's really sad.
We got to wrap up in a second.
Yeah, it's really sad, and I want to think it will only be that we can't trust our own government.
That's my thing. And now the thing is then when they say, "Oh, we got to go into Iraq or Iran or this," what are they lying about there?
Yeah, you can't. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's what really bothers me is our own government covers up for itself so often.
Oh yeah.
And Obama was supposed to be the transparent transparent president. He's not even close.
No.
Not even close.
Our government will never
We'll
be
never
that.
know the truth of anything about the government.
That's right.
And it's so controlled by the so-called power that may be that we'll never know anything about the truth. And that's frightening.
Yep.
All right, well, we got to go. Hey, everybody, Amsterdam tonight, 11 p.m. Check it out. Myself and the other guys from VE will be guest hosting. So I've spent a lot of time here today. Norm, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Gary,
you.
thanks.
Bye,
Do you know who's on with us next week, Gary? Do you know yet?
Yeah, that's Glenn Normando from Director of Fishing Game.
All right, Glenn Normando will be here.
On my show
Thanks,
sometime
everybody.
Next weekend.